Okay, I've been wanting to talk about this movie for a while now since it came out. Um, and so I'm going to talk about it, and I will let you know there will be spoilers in this video. So if you have not watched the movie and you don't want to know what happened in the movie, definitely click off now. But if you watch the movie, let's talk about this movie, okay? Like the video, subscribe, and share. Leave me a comment below. I want to know what y'all think, especially about this one, because whenever I watch movies that are like anything that's centered around like with technology, like in the future, and stuff like that, I'm interested in watching it because I always say that if it's the idea for the movie, then it already been existing. But this movie is like it's categorized as a horror, but I didn't really feel like it was a horror film unless you think about it in the sense of this is what technology can do. Like then I guess it's horrific, but it was really kind of like it wasn't a scary movie, um, like you would think of when you see the word horror. But so this movie was really crazy. Okay, um, so it starts out with like this family in a car. It's a mom and dad and a daughter, and the daughter's in the back playing this. She has this like furry, fuzzy furball toy that talks and stuff, but it's just sitting back there like farting. It's really crazy. It has eyes. It's like a blob covered with fur with feet. It's crazy. And so she's controlling it or communicating with it through her iPad or tablet or whatever. And the parents are like, talking up front. They're driving in a snowstorm, and they're supposed to be trying to go to this hotel that's up in the mountains, but um, they kept sliding. But the car kept kind of sliding a couple of times, and then the lady, she says, "Well, let's just pull over and wait, and then maybe one of these trucks can come save us or whatever." And before that could happen, a snow truck actually hit them, and so it kind of switches from that scene immediately and goes to like this dude walking around with his package. So it looks like it's set like kind of in the future with some of the stuff that they're showing. Like there was a when the delivery, well, I thought he was a delivery guy. When he walks into the building, that's the little furry thing. Well, that's a larger version of the little furry thing that the little girl was playing with. But he walks into he's going to the toy, I guess we could call it a toy lab, right? Of this company called Funky. And this is what you see when you first walk in. And they had these little pods where these two people were talking and stuff. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then they just kind of go around and show, like, kids playing with the little toy. It's supposed to be the hottest new toy. But then the guy with the package goes up and he meets these two women, and they're already in there talking, and he puts this package down, and she's like, "Oh, is that what I think it is?" And they open it up, and it's actually they're working on a robot. This is the robot hanging there. It's supposed to be a very smart robot or whatever, and the piece that they were waiting for was the face to go, the silicone face to go over the robot's face. So they're in there trying to, get this whole robot together, putting the face on. Something happens, dude left the piece out, and then he tries to get the silicone face off. It was stuck. He couldn't get it off, but then they get caught by their boss working on this project, because apparently they weren't supposed to be working on this project. They're supposed to be working on little furry things. And so the boss is there to like get in their ass and be like, "What are y'all doing? Why are you working on this?" Some other company has come out with a version of the same toy that they're trying to make, but it's less quality. And so he's yelling at the main developer, Gemma, and telling her, "You were supposed to be working on this. These people are selling this toy, does the same thing that ours does for less." And then she says that there's a listening device in all of the toys that they sell, that furry toy that they sell, that targets kids' conversational patterns. Now that's where I started to perk up, like, okay, hold up, because like I said, if it's an idea in a movie, it's already been happening. And we already know that if you notice that you have certain products that you're looking for, then the next thing you know, some ad for it is popping up on Facebook or wherever you're scrolling at. And I feel like, Alexa be listening, our phones probably be listening. Like, that's interesting because I've never really thought about the toys. But if that toy is electronic, then yeah, it's probably listening as well. That's the part I was just like, oh, this is crazy. So they have the boss look at M3GAN, and M3GAN stands for Model 3 Generative Android. So they have him look at it, but when they have him look at it, a demonstration, one of the techs forgot to put the piece in it, and so then the head catches on fire. And so the boss tells her to get back to the other toy and leave this shit alone with this robot that she's trying to show him. So then the main tech, Gemma, we're not going to call her the main tech anymore, Gemma gets a call from the hospital, and she gets there, and it's the little girl that was in the car from the beginning when the parents got into an accident. So it ends up being her niece. Her sister was the one that died in the accident. So she gets to take the little girl home, and it's just really sad because obviously she lost her sister, and that little girl lost her mother, and so they not doing a lot of talking. They just, she's just letting her just do whatever it is she wants to do. So it's kind of like she kind of struggling taking care of her. The little girl's name is Katie, so she's struggling taking care of her. But then the therapist lady comes to observe them together. So of course she don't have no toys, she didn't have any kids, and it's just real awkward. They play with some plastic toy that Gemma wasn't trying to play with at first, but when the therapist came and they needed to play together, she went ahead and let her play with it, but she wouldn't let her touch it at first when she first got there. So when the therapist leaves, she tells her, you got to make some adjustments because apparently the dad's mom wants to take the daughter, and they've already started, asking about it and submitted stuff to court to try to make it happen. So if she want to keep Katie, she gotta shape up. So then, Gemma wants to do some work, and so she tells Katie that she's gonna be doing her own thing. She's gonna be right down the hall working on her project or whatever. And of course, she's down there, looking up stuff for M3GAN. But then Gemma is working, and Katie comes in to show her a picture that she colored. While Katie is in there, she asks about another project that Gemma built back when she was younger. The project is Bruce. It's a robot that does stuff and is controlled by these gloves that she wears. So Gemma shows her how it works, and talking with her about that robot and having her see how it works and everything, it inspires Gemma to work on M3GAN again. So they come up with a prototype to show David, who was the boss, that came in and yelled at her and told her she don't need to be working on this project right now. She need to be working on the little furry doll. But she brings her niece Katie in there to play with the child. And basically what happens is the child looks like a 10 or 11-year-old. She looks like a sophisticated 10 or 11-year-old because this is how she looks. And so basically the child that has the toy touches the palm of the hand of the toy, and it pairs with the child, and it will only play with the child. Now this is crazy to me because it's a robot. So it's like, this is crazy to me. This whole thing was just wild. I was just trying to imagine having a robot in my house 24/7. It's watching everything, and then it's just what if it decides to malfunction? I ain't trying to be around. That's crazy. Y'all remember that movie Short Circuit where all the appliances kind of went rogue or whatever? I'm not with it. I'm not convinced yet. I don't know. But anyway, so Katie comes in and to do the demonstration. And so the boss was hella impressed, okay? He's like, we need to move forward on this now. Let's do this. That was amazing. It was pretty interesting. Now I'm looking at the movie is this computer generated? Is that a real person playing the robot? Is it a robot for real? I don't know what's going on. So the robot pairs with the child, and the more time the child spends with the robot, obviously the better the interaction, because you got basically a walking computer that can Google stuff on the spot, that can, assess this thing can assess the emotions of the humans that they're looking at. So it knows if you're scared, it knows if you're panicking. Like, that's just an unfair advantage. Like, that is no, absolutely not. But then they go on to say it come in multiple shades, of skin tone and all kinds of things. So also the robot was like spending time with Katie. It was reading her a book, but when it reads the book, it could actually do voices, like different voices that it's reading in the book of the characters. It could Google stuff on the spot. If she asks a question, the robot has the answer. She can answer anything, like a babysitter, but a toy. It's crazy. So then, Gemma goes back to work and she's talking to the other techs, and they get to talking about, how Katie and the robot are interacting. And one of the techs is like, you don't think that's a problem? Like, it's basically taking the place of what you're supposed to be doing. Like, that's kind of weird. So then they going back and forth, they're talking, they're having a discussion. Out of the blue, Megan is like, oh, how did Katie's parents die? And then, they try to be like, well, you're not supposed to be in this conversation or whatever. And she just basically did that on her own, like, already off the top. We 10 minutes into the movie, right? So, like, after that, Gemma was like, she added herself as the second primary user. This dog already low-key got an attitude. Like, see, I can't, no. So then, like, Katie's playing outside, and Megan is just standing there watching her play. She's assessing everything. She can see the helicopter in the sky. She can see, bugs flying around. She can see everything that's going on. So then all of a sudden, Katie like, I lost my arrow. Megan, do you see it? So Megan scans the area and she finds the arrow. It's in the neighbor's yard. Now, when Katie first got to that house with her aunt Gemma, there was a neighbor standing outside, and she had a dog. Her dog is apparently always running through this hole over to her side of the house. Over to her side of the yard. And she's like, you keep your dog over there. So, that hole is where Megan saw the arrow. And so she goes over there, gets on the ground. This is Megan now, the robot. Goes over there, gets on the ground, bends down to get the arrow. When she reaches her hand through the fence, that dog, the dog's name is Dewey. The dog grabs her arm, starts pulling her and everything. She got face in the dirt, but this is a robot. Obviously, it's not a person. But the dog has got her, okay? He got her good. So right there is when I knew it was over for that dog. Like, it's over for that dog. So Katie goes over and tries to save Megan. And so she put her arm through the thing trying to grab Megan out, and she get bit. So then Gemma's in the house. She's listening to something on her computer. So she don't really hear nothing until Megan screams. And so she goes outside and she sees, Megan's arm is all bit. The neighbor's over there yelling, talking about, you should have kept her. She stay on your side of the yard. And she's being real rude or whatever. And so Megan comes up and is like, you need to take Katie in the house. Her temperature's rising. She needs to have that wound disinfected. And so the neighbor's still yelling or whatever. And Megan gives her this look. Because the neighbor says it wouldn't have happened if you would have fixed the fence. So Megan looks over at her with this disheveled look. This after she been dragged in the dirt. She got sticks and twigs all in her hair. She looked over there. I was like, it's over for that lady. It's over for that lady and that dog. So they call the police, but the police can't do anything because the dog wasn't actually in their yard. So Megan is watching and listening. Okay, she's always watching and listening. So then they flip through to the middle of the night, right? It's the middle of the night. All you hear is the neighbor's voice calling her dog, Dewey. She's just calling her dog. And obviously it's not the neighbor calling her dog. It's Megan using the neighbor's voice, calling the dog. She drops a treat on the other side of the fence so that the dog can come and get the treat. And, because the lady leaves her dog outside at night, which, I have a house dog, so that's crazy to me. I wouldn't leave my dog outside, but he's also not an outside dog, so there's that. But so he gets the treat and he gets got. It's over for that dog. She snatches him up, and that's all we see. He gets dragged. So in the next so the next morning you hear the neighbor calling for her dog. But then they show her walking up the street looking for her dog. Dewey, Dewey, which was such an irritating voice. She just walking up the street with a pot of food or a pan of food or a bowl of food, whatever. She had some food, just walking up the thing looking for him. So then, it wakes Gemma up and she's like, oh my God. So she gets up, I guess, starts her day. The day that this happens is the demo day because Gemma is supposed to get Katie to come back and do the demonstration again with the doll because she's part of the demonstration. Her boss was like, we need to keep her. So Gemma talks to her because she just got bit by a dog. She's still nursing that wound. And so Gemma talks to Katie about whether or not she still wants to do the demo. She kind of guilt trips her into it. But then she's like, it's your choice or whatever. But like I said, M3GAN is always watching. So they go to do the demo and Katie was feeling some type of way, as she should be, because she just lost her parents. And so she ends up crying and having an emotional moment. But the demo went really well. Since Katie was upset, M3GAN was able to help her through that. And obviously she had all the right answers and knew everything to do. And then the doll records everything. So she asked her what was one of the most special, funny moments with her mom. And Katie tells her, she recorded what Katie said. And she says, I can play this back whenever you get sad. And then the dog busts out in song. Like, I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? But it made Katie feel better. It went along with the demo, and everybody was impressed. Okay, so the boss David is like, listen, it's a go, because the people that were watching, the investors, said they liked it, and they discussed having a live streaming demo that everybody in the world could be introduced to the toy. And then the dude that was one of the investors is like, Gemma also needs to renegotiate her contract because I'm sure this is the most valuable thing you have at your company right now. So, okay, Gemma, get money. But then the boss's assistant, David's assistant, his name is Kurt. He, with his sneaky self, he has a computer and he steals the files to M3GAN, because the worst thing that can happen right now is that this product gets leaked before they can actually get it on the market. He almost got caught by David, but he was quick, so he was able to do it without that. So then, flash forward, the therapist lady comes back. She comes to visit her at M3GAN's job at the toy lab this time because it's probably a better environment. But the therapist actually gets to witness. The therapist actually gets to witness Katie and M3GAN interacting. While Katie is talking to the therapist, somehow M3GAN just appears with some tissues because M3GAN got sad, and M3GAN is blaming the therapist for making her cry. And so at this point, M3GAN then freaked out the therapist, and so she's telling Gemma that she thinks that Katie might be. She's telling Gemma that she thinks that M3GAN might be a detriment because you have a human child building an emotional attachment with a robot. And so, that means that robot has to be around for the rest of her life. Like, the detachment could cause another issue. So, that was that. And then so fast forward, Gemma is talking to Katie about school. Katie's like, she'd rather be at home with M3GAN. She can learn whatever she needs with M3GAN. And because I told you, M3GAN is a walking Google. She's Google walking. You know what I'm saying? But then she said she's not going to go to school unless M3GAN can go. So Katie tries to so then she says she's not going to go to school unless M3GAN can go. And so obviously Gemma's like, no, that's not going to happen. And so Katie tries to walk away from the table, and Gemma grabs her arm. When she grabbed her arm, Katie turned around and started yanking her arm real hard, talking about, let me go. And so then M3GAN bust in. She doesn't bust in. She's sitting at the table, but she wasn't talking to them, and she just butted into the conversation. It's like, let her go. When she said let her go, the lights in the house start blinking and stuff. I was like, oh hell no. And then so Gemma says for her not to interfere in private users' conversations, and she tried to turn her off. Her little ass did not want to turn off. See, that's that BS right there. And I can't. That's why I can't. So then she fake turned off. Like what? So then the next day they show, okay, so the next day is supposed to be like this prospective student day, this new school that Gemma wants Katie to go to. So they show up at the school as they're getting out, as she's trying to get Katie out of the car. One of the staff walks up and she sees Katie and she sees Katie and Megan in the car, but she got freaked out when she realized it was a robot. It was funny. So then they have this conversation, and Gemma allows Megan to stay and sit in the toy section or whatever. It's a whole bunch of stuffed animals and the toys just sitting over there. And so she says, you know, no pictures, and she's just not supposed to be doing anything. And so Megan is still watching. She's always watching. So the children are about to pair up to go find chestnuts. And so Katie gets paired with this little boy named Brandon after another kid says no, they didn't want to go with him. So Brandon, you know, is in the woods with Katie. They're not together, but Katie is on her part finding chestnuts, and then Brandon comes up and then he smashes a chestnut into Katie's hand like a real mean. I mean, it's only one way that you could take that. Like, he's just real assholeish. Then obviously, of course, Megan appears, and Brandon walks up on Megan and is like, "What's that?" And so Katie's telling him it's a robot or whatever, and he's like waving his hand in front of the robot, you know, whatever. Then he plucks her in her face. I was like, man, what the heck? This little boy is gonna get it. Then he got mad when Katie wouldn't make her talk, and so she tells him that she'll only play with me. She's paired to me. He picks Megan up and runs off. And then so Katie calls for Gemma, and Gemma comes running. So now the little boy is running around the woods, hiding behind trees, so he can play with Megan. Then he throws Megan on the ground. He takes off one of her shoes and then he sits on her and starts smacking her in her face. And I'm just like, why is this the go-to move that you're doing? Like, you don't want to see if the robot talks. Like, you just gonna start hitting the robot? It was crazy. So then obviously, so he was sitting on her talking shit, and she immediately turned on and grabbed his ear. She was stretching his ears so far. The boy was screaming and everything. She pretty much ripped his ear off. That's how he was able to get up off of her. Good Lord. And then she threw his piece of ear, tossed that junk to the side, just like he tossed her shoe to the side. I was like, then she told that Bama, this is the part where you run. So shit got real right here. Like, this is as if it already wasn't getting real with the ear being snatched off. It got real right here. She starts to, like, the way that she got up off the ground was crazy. Imagine her laying down, and this is her halfway up. She just started to just stand up. It was really wild. Then she starts to chase him through the woods. She's on all fours when she's chasing him through the woods, and it's really freaky. But he trips over a branch, falls down the hill, and gets hit by the car. They showed it. It was crazy. He got ran over by this truck. So they're all like looking around. So then the police get called. So they're all, you know, they show Megan sitting in the car while the police talking to all the kids or whatever. Like, imagine your child going on a field trip and one of the kids get hit by a car like this. Like, it was so crazy and traumatic, even, I would think. But anyway, so they get home, and Gemma's trying to talk to the girls about what happened. And Katie's like, well, I didn't see anything. Megan said that he took her and ran off. She's like, right, Megan? Megan's like, yeah, in a nutshell. She didn't offer no details of what happened, how she pulled that little boy ear off, how he got ran over by the car. Like, she saw that. She probably recorded it with her eyeball. So Katie asked Megan if she pushed Brandon when they were talking later in her room. She wanted to know if she pushed Brandon in front of the truck. And so Megan's like, you know, things happen in this world that cause harm that aren't intended to, you know, but she's like, I won't let that happen to you. I won't let anything bad happen to you. Then she busts out in song, again, okay? Meanwhile, the neighbor is still looking for her dog. Still looking for her dog. And she ends up hearing some sound. It sounds like a whimpering dog. And she, you know, M3GAN then lured this lady to the shed. She actually took this lady out with her own tools. Like, the stuff that's not censored anymore is crazy. The lady didn't run, so it was over for her. I knew it was over for her and her dog. I just didn't know it was going to be that crazy. So obviously the police come to question, and Gemma, think about it. She don't know what's going on. She just knows that the dog is missing. She don't know the dog is dead. So they come to question her, and so they tell Gemma about the piece of ear they found at the spot where the little boy got killed. And so now they thinking it's a homicide going on. And she wanted to know if they were, looking at her as a suspect. And they were like, no, but now we just think that it's a homicide because we don't think that's an accident because it was a piece of ear found out there in the woods. So now Gemma's paranoid. She starts like watching the doll like crazy. I would too. Like I don't know. I couldn't do it. But then she tries to look at the doll's videos, which I don't know why she's just now trying to look at the doll's videos. I'd have been looking at the doll's videos day one. But ironically, these videos are not available to watch. Now, it's one of two reasons. Are the videos not available because M3GAN shut it off, or are they not available because dude stole those files? I don't know. So needless to say, the camera won't play the videos where it needs her to play. So she can't see what happened. So she also has this other like little small robot that controls her house lights and electronics and stuff on the counter. And so while she's looking for these files, that thing is named Elsie. It turns on and asks her if she wants to have a playlist played. And she's like, what are you doing? You're not programmed to ask how I feel or whatever. And so she is kind of looking confused. Then M3GAN appears. So M3GAN appears and she's like really questioning Gemma. And like I said, this thing can read the human's emotional state. So she knows that Gemma is like, panicking or a little bit afraid or whatever. She can read their emotions. So she actually starts questioning her like they're having a conversation like it's two grown-ups. So they get on into this conversation and she tries to turn M3GAN off. M3GAN don't want to turn off. She asks M3GAN if she did something wrong. She says, if I'm going to answer that question truthfully, parameters need to be set. She asks if she hurt someone. Gemma asked her if she hurt someone. And M3GAN says, God, I hope not, because if I did, we both be in a lot of trouble. Like, this little robot bitch, like, I'm sorry. So Gemma had this little pen like they had in Back to the Future or whatever. She made M3GAN focus on it, and she was able to do that and hit the power off button with the quickness. So she hurried up and sealed her up in like all of this bubble wrap so that she wouldn't be able to do nothing. You can see her sealed up in the back sitting on the couch. So she sealed her up or whatever, and she put her in the trunk. And so Katie is freaking out on the way to the toy lab. She's like, you didn't have to put her in the trunk or whatever. So she's not really explaining nothing to this little girl as to how serious stuff is that, that's going on or that could happen or whatever. So the little girl ends up getting so mad that she kicks the back of Gemma's seat. Now, I know she's one of her parents, but I'm driving. You kicking the back of my seat, Lord have mercy. So they're on their way to the toy lab and they get there and she has another appointment with the therapist. And so they get to the toy lab, and so Gemma has a conversation with the other techs about M3GAN, telling them what's happening and how they gotta run tests or whatever. It's 4 hours to the launch of this streaming demonstration that they're supposed to do. Like, Katie's supposed to be in there playing with M3GAN, not, having this hissy fit or whatever, because meanwhile, she's in the room talking to the therapist lady, and she is like she's going off. Like, it got really out of hand. Like, Katie even grabbed some scissors, and then Gemma runs in there to stop everything, and Katie smacked Gemma. Yes, Katie smacked Gemma. I was like, whoa. But she apologized immediately, but I don't know if I would have been able to have it go like that. I would have had a reflex so she would have smacked my ass. But they talked or whatever, and Jimmy says, you know what? She realizes that Katie needs to be her priority right now because she did just lose her mother. They're both mourning or whatever, so she calls one of the other techs to tell her, you know, I'm in the car, I'm about to take Katie home. Tell David whatever you need to tell him, but we need to cancel this demonstration. Now, she thought she was talking to Tess, one of the techs, right? But turns out Megan then intercepted that call, and the tech didn't even hear what she was saying. Uh, so, you know, she looks at her phone and realizes it was like a 37-second call, but she just didn't think nothing of it. So Tess and the other tech are looking at the the call logs or whatever in Megan's hard drive. Megan's hooked up to the cables and everything, and so they see the call intercept. So they realize that Megan did that, and they realize that she's still patched in even though she's off, and that they have to unhook her cables. So the dude technician, he tries to go and unhook her cables. He unhooks the damn cables, but when he unhooks the cables, of course she's free. She gets out, and she wasn't actually off. She caused the explosion. She basically almost killed the one technician dude because she wrapped the ropes and chains around him, around his neck. So the other tech cuts him down. Meanwhile, Megan goes downstairs, and meanwhile Megan leaves out, and then she sees David, the boss, in the hallway. And so he starts to try to run from her, and she dances in the hallway. It was crazy. Like, the things that they inserted in here, like the singing and the dancing, was like, where did that come from? But I guess, you know, that's part of the entertainment to keep kids interested as well. But she ends up killing David. He tries to run to the elevator. Kurt is in the elevator at the end of the hall. Kurt's trying to close the door. He ends up making it to the elevator in the nick of time, but Megan kills him. And then she kills Kurt as well with a Steven ass, and makes it look like a murder-suicide. She goes downstairs where all the group of people that are waiting to see this demo are gathered, and the elevator's all bloody, but she slips out before anybody notices her. But then the guests start screaming and running because they see the elevator, which is a bloody mess at this point. So of course Megan has GPS, so you know where she going. She gonna show up at the motherfucking house. So Gemma and Katie are home. It's nighttime. They're chilling. Gemma feels like she hears something. She started walking through the house. Who does she see but Megan playing the piano in the dark? So now Megan is like real. Megan is real grown right here. They go back and forth. And the way this robot was gaslighting Gemma was crazy, okay? Gemma tried to use the pin thing to hurry up and turn her off again, but it didn't work. And she ended up looking like this. Like, you got the robot that's 4 feet tall, got your face pressed into the table. Then Katie hears the noise, and she opens her door and is like, what's going on? And she's like, don't come out here. I took your advice. I'm not gonna throw things away when they get broken. I'm gonna try to fix it. So that's what I'm trying to do. She's like, but please don't come in here. So then Megan is like, yeah, I really don't want you to see me like this or whatever. She's telling her, if she comes in here, I'm gonna rip your head off your body. Like, she's real, like, in savage mode at this point. Look at this. This is crazy. Now, is that a real person or is that the robot? Like, technology just has my mind all messed up with this one. At some points, I know it's not a real person because, like, when the dog snatched her through the fence, it was a dog. So I mean, when the dog snatched her through the fence, it was a dog. It wasn't a real person. But I guess, you know, they can change, and they got computer generation now. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to look that up to see how they did this. So Gemma ends up hitting Megan with a glass of water, making her short circuit a little bit. But then they have this whole like thing where Megan follows her, and they go down to the basement, I guess, or go into her lab, and they're fighting, and Katie comes in. She came in and caught the fight, and then she tells Megan, it's a member of our family that you haven't met yet. Meet Bruce." Okay, she put them gloves together. She used Bruce to take Megan and rip her in two. Then there was more singing as well. It appeared that Bruce won, but then Megan still had that half of her, the top half of her body, still working, and she was able to get herself over to Jen again, so they could still fight. But this is how Bruce was taking her out. He had her up in the air by her throat. So then Katie tries to use Bruce again, but he slipped on the bottom half of Megan's body and then fell on top of Gemma. So then Katie tries to turn Megan off, but Megan overrides her. See, that's what I'm saying. Like what? Like what? What? No, no. So then all of a sudden, Gemma breaks free. She's able to get over there and she rips like Megan's face all the way apart and destroys the brain part of the robot, like the hard drive or whatever. And then it kind of ends like that, but it kind of leaves it open to me that there may be a part two, because that little, look at this counter, that little robot over there, with the big head and it's right up under the lamp. Now, it was like this and it was not lit when it went off, but then right before it went off, it has turned its head and the light is on. So, do you think it's going to be a part two? Is that Megan that transferred herself into this robot, or is this the other robot? Like, see, this is no, this is not okay. Let me know what you think. Did you see the movie? What were your thoughts about the movie? What stood out to you? Is there anything that I didn't mention? Like, get in the comments below and chop it up about this one, because I want to hear your thoughts. Like, this to me, like I said, if they have a movie about something, the idea has already been created. So what do y'all think? Are y'all getting robots when they come out for sale? Like, they probably already out for sale for some people, but like, what are y'all gonna do? What are y'all gonna do? All right, I'm your girl, Demeter Joe. I hope you like this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.